Hi, my name is Alan Jones, and I'm the owner of Floor Coverings International Mesa. I wanted to take a few minutes and talk to you about the difference in some of the options between a SPC, WPC, and laminate flooring. So this is basically a comparison of vinyl and laminate materials. People are always asking me which one's better, and the reality is they all have strengths in terms of their performance. So it's almost like a question to say, what's better, chocolate or vanilla? So it really depends on what kind of pie you're putting the ice cream on. So if we take a look at this, you can see that throughout this discussion, we're going to compare a few key attributes across these different products. Scratch resistance, water protection, comfort, thickness. These are areas where they tend to perform differently. And depending on your application, one of those aspects may be more important to you than the others. So we're going to take a little bit and talk through these. Probably some of you are looking at this and saying there's two different kinds of luxury vinyl. I didn't even know that. But yes, there are two different kinds of luxury vinyl. There is a tremendous amount of research and engineering that's ongoing that has created these product families to be much different than they were 10 or 15 years ago, which is good for us as consumers because we have great options of performance that we can use to beautify our homes. So let's take a look at these attributes. Of course, when it comes to looking realistic, all of these products just have some great options today. The advent of the type of printing that's possible in the manufacturing process. Many times you look at these products today and you say, I can't tell, is that real wood? You see somebody's home in a picture and you can't tell whether they have wood flooring or not. So that's just a testament to the quality of the manufacturing process today and the design that's gone into them. In terms of stain resistance, all of these are targeted to especially avoid the 3 Ps that come with your pets, the pee, the poop, and the puke. So most of them actually even have specific warranties against those stains. And in terms of cleanability in general, that's why you get these types of floors. They are easy cleanup, they tend to be waterproof, and this just makes it easy to ensure that your home continues to look good year after year. Let's look at the next attribute here, water protection. So all of these products today are made to be water resistant. Some of them actually will say they're waterproof. That could be open to interpretation. What you think waterproof is and what I say waterproof is could be very different. But in general, they're designed to have standing water on them for a period of time. The longer the standing water is there, obviously the more potential there is that it could penetrate. But the locking joints, all these things are protected on the products. At one point, laminate was not very water resistant, but today the technology, it is very water resistant. If you're going to be in a bathroom in an area that could be subject to a lot of water, what you do with the installation of the laminate is put a silicone bead around the side, because where the laminate is cut and the edges of the laminate, that's where there is some risk that you could get moisture into the core, and that's when laminate gets into a problem. But the luxury vinyl products in general don't have that issue of being subject to water penetrating their core. So in the end, that's why we say best for luxury vinyl, but we certainly put laminate in kitchens and bathrooms today. Scratch resistance. There is a lot of difference in products between how scratch resistant they are. Laminates tend to be more scratch resistance because the laminates have a penetration of the protection that goes into that top layer of the product, whereas in your vinyl you can't penetrate that So all of the protective layers of the vinyl are on the surface. And of course, the scratch resistance is kind of tied to how thick that surface layer is. So while a laminate has what they call an AC4 or AC5 scratch rating, a vinyl tends to list its scratch resistance based on the mil thickness of that protective layer. You can see that in a standard residential application, you would tend to have 20 mil. We recommend a 20 mil protective layer if it's going to be a high traffic area. And of course, when you get into commercial products, you can get anywhere up to a 40 mil wear layer. So there is a little difference in scratch resistance, and this is one where laminate tends to win out. Dent resistance. In general, luxury vinyl, and this, I mean the SPC version, the stone polymer core version, tends to be a little more dense, dent resistant. That core of the vinyl is very rigid, very hard. So when you drop something on that vinyl, it's tend not to dent. Whereas a laminate and a WPC have a little softer core. Of course, when you get a laminate that's 12 millimeters or 14 millimeters, that's a ½ inch or thicker, that product is still pretty dent resistant. Comfort. Comfort is a little bit subjective, but in general, when you talk about these vinyls, the WPC or the waterproof core vinyl actually has a core that has some air pockets built into it. So it's almost like your Nike shoes that have that foam layer for comfort. So a nice thick WPC is actually going to feel better to walk on, is going to have more of that resistance. Of course, a very thin SPC that has a super hard core, especially here in Arizona where you tend to be putting that right over concrete, is going to have a much harder feel. And then a laminate, especially if you get a thick laminate, again, like I talked about, 12 millimeter or more, that should have some level of comfort. But here we would say in general, a luxury vinyl WPC would win out. In terms of sound, again, that luxury vinyl, that WPC, tends to absorb sound because of the way that center foam type core is composed. So it's very sound absorbent. Again, the thicker the material you get, the more sound absorbent it will be. Laminate, sometimes you can say that it has a little bit of a hollow sound when you walk on it, but there is even some difference among laminates, whether it has a dense core or a lower density core. So one thing I want to stress as you look at each of these products within each family, there is a range of designs, thicknesses, product characteristics vary from one vendor to another. So I make a lot of these assumptions or statements based on generalities. Okay, so that doesn't mean that there can't be a laminate that has better sound absorbing properties than an SPC. So overall thickness, laminate tends to be the best. You can get laminates that are 12 millimeters, 14 millimeters thick, so that's more than ½ inch. And especially when you're going up against a tile, there's going to be a very small transition from one flooring type to the other, which a lot of people like. If you're going from a laminate to a carpet that has a very high thick cushion and thick pile, you can have a smoother transition than if you're going from, let's say, a luxury vinyl SPC that's very thin. So this is an area where you have that nice thickness to the flooring. Not only does it transition better, but the thicker the flooring, the better the locking mechanism tends to be, and the better that you're going to span and cover any subfloor imperfections with those thick boards. So Even amongst WPCs and SPCs, there is a range of thickness. You can be with the attached pad at 5.5 millimeters, and you can go all the way up to 11 millimeters on a vinyl. So again, a broad range amongst all of these products. So the key takeaways are that these are all high-performing floors. You tend to get great performance because of the high level of engineering and technology that's in these products today. So they tend to all be very high performing. Of course, some of these products are going to excel in different situations than others. You know, if I've got pets that tend to have big long nails that could scratch the floor, you know, maybe I would consider that I should get a laminate with an AC5 rating, which is very scratch resistance. That's my most important characteristic. You know, so I think you have to weigh all the things that are important about your floors and then compare each of the different products. Price is always an important factor for people as well. So really understand what characteristics are important and only pay for what you need. If you don't think that you're going to have a lot of potential damage to your floors, then maybe getting an AC5 scratch rating resistance isn't important to you, and you don't want to pay any more for a product that would have that. And again, as I said, there's a range of performance, thickness, warranty within each of these products. So it isn't like if I get a laminate, it's always going to be thicker than a vinyl. The thickest WPC is definitely thicker than the thinnest laminate. So there's a lot of overlap here and a lot to consider there. And of course, I haven't even touched on aesthetics. Aesthetics are very important. Some people are looking for products that have a very large board size. They like a 9 by 72 inch board. And so you may be looking at a laminate style that doesn't offer boards that large. So that may be important to you. There's variation in color from plank to plank. You know, some products have a 6-board repeat, and some products have a 24-board repeat before that same pattern's repeated. So, you know, that helps with the realism of the floor. So that's a factor to consider. And then, of course, there is differences in the embossing, the feel of the surface, the level of gloss that's on the surface, the type of beveled edge. You know, there's small bevel, deep bevels, rounded bevels, you know, and everybody looks at those and has kind of a different opinion of what their taste is in those aspects. Shade variation. Sometimes there's a high variation. There's a light board and a dark board, and it gets a real cabin type rustic, real wood look to it. And some people say, I don't want that. I've got a modern home. I want the shading of every board to be very similar. So there is a lot here. So I certainly haven't solved all your issues or answered all your questions. But you know, our real focus when we come and meet with someone in a home is to understand what they need performance-wise, what their budget is, and then, you know, what kind of look are they trying to achieve. So we can try and put all those things together and recommend the right floor. So I hope this has been educational for you. Of course, we're very excited about flooring and we love talking about it, but you know, we're here to answer your questions, and thank you for listening.